San Diego podcast in partnership with News Radio 600 Kogo. I am Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego. And she has finished the first draft of our AI policy. We got to get that done before it eats our face. She's Bella Ross.
Yeah, the tea is I finished that like 2 months ago and I just forgot to send it.
Yeah.
So sorry guys. I know you guys were all waiting on the edge of your seat
Yeah.
for that AI policy.
If only you would have had an AI agent to remind you to send it.
It's true.
This is how humans are inherently flawed.
And that voice is from the guy who's mogging our podcast, maxing away, but not using our grant money for plastic surgery. He's Jacob McQuinney.
No plastic surgery yet. I don't know that we have enough grant money. Although I guess you can get some pretty, cut rate plastic surgery.
I guess so. What does mogging mean?
Mogging is basically like owning facially, right? How would you describe it?
I was just listening to the clavicular podcast this morning where he was talking about mogging. You can be mogged in many different capacities. You could be mogged physically or like status mogged or financially.
Is it like dunked on kind of?
You were just like
pretty
owned.
much.
You're like, okay, that guy is more attractive than me or richer than me. It's a really bad feeling from what I understand. I've never personally been mogged.
So when you watch,
none of us have.
When you watch a Richard Bailey video, you're sort of white teeth mogged. You know?
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Let's get into that in a minute. And she celebrated her birthday this week. Happy birthday, Andrea Sanchez Villafana. What's up?
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Good. Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy my birthday, yes.
Good. Coming up on the show this week, the Republicans are posting their way through it. Out of power in the city of San Diego for a while now. They're coming back as independents, influencers, slopulists. What'll be the impact of their renaissance? We'll get into it. And the district attorney charged a nonprofit leader with stealing money meant to save people from overdoses. She was allegedly getting plastic surgery and taking trips and buying purebred dogs. The oversight failure at the heart of the case, we will explain. All that and more coming up. But first, what is Geese? Is it a band? I'm a fan of Goose. And, I picked it up from our old pal Andrew Keats. We're a fan of Goose, but is Goose a part of Geese?
No, I don't know anything about Goose, just as you know nothing about Geese.
Okay.
This is an intergenerational difference.
I just called you old.
You just got geese mogged.
Yeah. Well, Jacob, can you tell us how Geese came into the Voice of San Diego podcast universe?
I can, yeah. It's from our good friend Cody Pedersen over at the San Diego Unified School Board. Cody is one to frequently make kind of long Facebook posts where he lays out. He is.
I don't think long does it justice. This guy's known for days of writing on anything.
That is a dying art.
Yeah,
the
really
long
is.
Facebook post.
Yes.
Go.
Yes.
Not just Facebook, but in the party, he'll send things like, "This is what we got to be thinking about."
He is the wall of text guy. I think he does it in a way that's often very endearing.
Yeah.
He's genuinely extremely genuine in this way. But he posted this. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraph. I would guess 500 words, 600 words,
something like that.
About geese. He said that in early December last year he saw a reel about a woman talking about Geese shows. It's this kind of indie rock band that's been taking the world by storm, and he ended up getting into them and listening to them. He said that he downloaded 5 tracks from their newest album, and I've been listening to them on repeat for more than 2 months. I don't mean that figuratively. I made a playlist with just the 5 tracks, and I have played it almost exclusively in a perpetual cycle since early December.
Just listen to the album, Cody. It's good.
I mean, we all have our 5 or 6 favorite songs on any given album, right?
Sure.
It is very ADHD to just down house them for a month. That's what I do. I mean, it's been Bad Bunny's top 4 for the last 2 weeks. I'm walking around whistling. But you said that Geese is controversial.
They are. I feel like the culture right now is either you're Bad Bunny pilled or you're Geese pilled.
Oh.
That's kind of
the two genders.
The two genders, basically. Geese, well, the lead of Geese is this guy, Cameron Winter, and he's 22 or something. He's very young, and he has this really bizarre voice. He kind of sings like he's like that's like what he sounds like.
There is like a sort of
he looks like he sounds like that.
Right.
He does look like
I
he
think
sounds.
like the closest comparison I could make would be maybe like Velvet Underground. It's like post-punk but like a little bit experimental, but there's a lot of like screaming, and then the next second it'll be like very like deep and poetic and like kind of almost like a lullaby. And I don't know, I find it really addictive. Geese was my top artist last year, which is kind of embarrassing, but it's like that's my truth. I see you, Cody.
I will say it is good music. I genuinely enjoy it as well. It's not necessarily something I have, housed a 5-song playlist of for the past month and a half, but I mean, some of the songs that he includes on here are my favorite of their songs, so I do not blame him.
I don't know if you can go from Bad Bunny to Geese.
Cody Patterson will be joining Shayna Hazen on the podcast in a week. Yeah, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Wow, that was a really good transition.
Yeah.
I hadn't even realized it.
How are we gonna get ourselves out of this one?
We have them both. We have a lot to talk about with them. They've got a big budget crisis, and they've already told the teachers they're not going to lay them off, and they're going to give them a raise, which ties their hands a little bit. It'll be interesting to see how they want to deal with that. They got the housing stuff. Lots of things to talk to them about. We talked to them, almost 2 years ago, so it'll be a good chance to catch up, see where they are. We also, after that, we'll have another interview with the police chief.
Yes, Chief Scott Wall.
Chief Scott Wall is going to come in and talk about all the things. He took away the press passes.
Yes.
It's probably not the biggest thing we need to discuss, but there's a lot of...
I feel like it's like the elephant in the room that we need to address at some point that none of our listeners care about.
Yeah, like who screwed it up for us? Yeah.
I do really want to get him to lay out the story from the Mickey Mouse, press attempt to the eventual destruction of that program.
Well, now we have to tell it real quick. The triggering event for this was somebody wanted a press pass, applied for it, and said they didn't want to use their name, and they used Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse, yeah.
And then he's like, well, no. And then
you're not a real, like, you can't.
Did they sue?
They sued.
They sued, yeah.
And they won. They won.
Okay. Well, yeah. So now there's no press passes because Mickey Mouse wouldn't. You just give Mickey Mouse Mickey Mouse has achieved a lot in his career.
That does seem like something that Disney would come in and try to stop. Although I guess he's public domain now, right? Mickey Mouse?
I don't know.
Is he? I think he is.
Well, there you go. We won't mog the show with just talk about the press passes.
I don't think you used that right.
Did I?
Definitely.
We're not going to press pass Max.
We're going to press Max. But a lot of questions. So if you have them for either the school board trustees or for the chief, send them along at scott@vosd.org. Well, a complete shocker. Former mayor of Coronado, Richard Bailey, has an announcement, Bella, on the Instagram.
Oh my God.
I'm excited to share the news that I'm planning to run for San Diego City Council, but first I need your help. If you want to see a nonpartisan, policy-focused, back-to-basics approach for local government, like you see in all these videos, then I'm asking you to sign up at richardbailey.com to pledge your support.
He's doing it. A total shocker. He moved to the district. He's saying in there the key word was nonpartisan, so he appears to have at least
dropped the R.
Yeah, he's saying he's not a Republican anymore. I mean, it wasn't that long ago he was one of the leaders of the Republican Party on the Central Committee, like literally last year. Carl DeMaio kicked him out, got him out of there.
That'll do it.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Well, this is just confirming your theory from last week that all the Republicans are leaving the party because it's not cool anymore.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see. So nonpartisan. So this district, District 2 is my district. It covers the peninsula, Point Loma, and OB, but then juts into Claremont. So it's basically those two areas, Claremont and all that, Bay Park and all that, and then the peninsula. It's a very different, Claremont used to be seen as like the purple district, like the bellwether district. Like if you wanted to be married, you had to win Claremont kind of place. Like it's like a swing Ohio or whatever. And just like Ohio, now it's like, dark blue or I mean, like it went a certain direction. But, we'll see. So on the one hand, he speaks, he's done all these videos, getting people fired up about the budget crisis. He's shown up at all their protests about big, tall buildings and other things. So he's trying to capture that sort of NIMBY concern about the direction of the city energy. But will he be able to overcome the attacks that will come from the left, that he's a Republican, in sheep's clothing, that he's a supporter of Trump, all the things that they're going to throw at him. And so there are other candidates, of course. Nicole Crosby, she's running in the race. She seems to be angling for the labor support, but Josh Coyne, a downtown sort of, insider with the Downtown Partnership, he's also looking for some support there. And then there's a neighborhood activist, Mandy Havlick. So a couple others. We'll see how that pulls out, but it'll be really interesting, whether he can kind of overcome what's going to come his direction.
It is fascinating just how quickly he decided to, leave the Republican Party. Not only that, but kind of abandon Coronado. I mean, I guess he termed out. So what use is that area to him anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's sort of two ways. One is, in our neighborhood, like there's a lot. It's like a deep, like Portuguese, like there's the roots. Like activists, people have been part of different things, and then to just show up, there's certainly a carpetbagger feel to it. On the other hand, Coronado's not like, Canada or whatever. It's right there. It's very similar.
But it's also like Coronado is the local symbol of like out of touch rich people. Maybe almost second to La Jolla in a way, but like I feel like being the mayor of Coronado, the former mayor of Coronado, I don't feel like that's a particularly good look if you're trying to be like a populist candidate.
Yeah, I feel like there's a pretty wide open lane for somebody to say he wants to come to the mainland and tell us how to live.
Yeah. On the other hand, he has like figured out how to make videos that get people all pumped. He's like all over it. He seems to have gathered a lot of like energy around those videos. And again, so the key is there'll be tons of mailers that the labor unions and others fund that say like, point out anything he said about Trump or loving Trump or republicanism or whatever.
I mean, being on Fox News like kind of often, no?
Yeah, he was a not unprominent, voice on the right in San Diego, if not the most, prominent one in some respects. So I think it'll be because the district identifies very Democratic, but it also has this undercurrent of like kind of not liking anything locally, wanting to come down harsh on the homeless crisis, pretty keep it out of our neighborhood vibes on different things. And so I think I wouldn't write it off as an impossibility. It's going to be fascinating. It'll be just most important to see just how much resources the left wants to put into fight him.
So we can call Bailey an influencer, but can we call him a Slopulist?
Well, I hadn't heard that term until...
I don't think anybody had.
Right?
I saw that in the New York Times. I was like, all right, what? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so the New York Times profiled Amy Reichert among several, but she was kind of the headline of the piece about people on the right who were creating these videos that they called Slopulism, just this way of like doing, half-baked sort of journalism that aligned with Trump's priorities, conservative but populist conservative, and so she was like this one. They said she is one of the many creators channeling populist rage and elite resentment into a style of posting, and they've dubbed it Slopulism.
One could say it's sloppy journalism.
Is that what that's getting at? What is the...
Well,
it's
I think
populism.
Yeah.
And it has been around for a while. It's been bouncing around the internet for almost a year. That
Right.
phrase.
Right.
Sure. But I mean, I think the slop, the origins of the slop is, in like the AI slop, it's this content that's consumed as like kind of just like brainless consumption / entertainment, but it has this political edge to it. And maybe I think what the argument they're trying to make in the piece was that it maybe makes you feel like you're more politically engaged than you are, or that you're consuming something more substantive than you are, but it's ultimately just entertainment.
Yeah, they describe it as conservative content creators who have become the internet's busiest sleuths. They create videos that are light on evidence and traditional journalistic techniques, but are filled with sinister-sounding claims that neatly align with the Trump administration's priorities. I mean, is this just a fancy way of describing like people doing videos online? Like it seems like we've been doing that for a while. I mean, like you said, like Bailey's been doing his own version of explaining things, making a case. I don't know if it's light on evidence in that same way. There is a difference between what Bailey was doing and what Reichert seemed to be heading towards, which is Bailey was doing like this explainer of how things work with this like political opinion, and she's doing like a version of like, I gotcha, and this is fraud right here. This is something awful's happened, and it proves what we've been saying about blah blah blah, as opposed to like, hey, the Democrats have hired too many people and have run a deficit and it hasn't been proportional to the population. Like that's a little different.
Yeah, I think the fact that there are wild claims is kind of the key part of this whole slopulism thing. And Nick Shirley is the perfect example of that, right? Somebody who kind of hand waves at this thing that may look sinister, and maybe is, but maybe isn't, and uses the hand waving as the evidence itself. So Reichert does fit pretty neatly within that, especially some of the stuff that she has likely been doing with Nick Shirley.
Well, and I think kind of in the same vein, the biggest distinction to me is like Reichert's content is like very inflammatory, whereas when you look at Bailey's content, like he's talking about stuff that's ultimately super boring.
Yeah.
And he's not like really like shying away from the boringness of it, like making, and even like kind of trying to take the politics out of it in a way and like saying that it's like nonpartisan, whereas Amy's stuff I think really rides on like the politics and the instinctive reaction that people have to hearing certain political things.
Well, again, the New York Times has 4 different quotes right in a row of like what this is supposedly is. Okay, this is a profile again of Reichert and all these people. And it says one guy from American Conservative calls it MAGA Muzak. Another person at the University of Washington calls it participatory propaganda. Another professor at the University of Alabama calls it entrepreneurial opportunism. And then we got another one. It's the real novelty is its synchronization between the movement, the party, and the state. Again, it's just videos.
Well, and at the end of the article, they try to make it seem, I feel like, less politically targeted by bringing Zoran into it.
Yeah.
And saying like, well, yeah, the way that they just act like rent control and these like leftist policies are these like really obvious cure-alls that have no downsides is like exactly the same way that she is doing this. I felt like the way that they framed it was like a little bit of a stretch. Like surely this is a concept that goes across the political spectrum. But it did really feel like it was trying to just like take a hit at these conservative influencers, and maybe, rightfully so.
I think there is something about this sort of quasi-investigative, tabloidish kind of stuff that they're trying to do in this, that Reichert and Shirley seem to be on the front edge, versus what Zoran and what like maybe even Bailey or others are trying to do, where it's like, I'm going to talk to you authentically about politics and policy, try to help you understand it, and along the way build a movement. And that's different, I think.
And the big difference is some of them are running for office, others are trying to gain influence and make money.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a candidate, whether or not they are making something that may be misleading, is ultimately campaigning. Right. And while these people may be campaigning, it's not for any sort of discernible office. It's for the larger sort of movement of conservative politics.
But also at the same time, she says in the piece that she makes like almost no money off of this.
Yeah.
So it really is like about power.
That does seem like a skill issue.
Right.
So you guys are actually young and don't remember this, which is good. And I don't know if I need to bring this up, but my blog, when I started a blog at Voice San Diego in 2006, do you know what its name was?
Oh, God.
This is great. I'm glad.
Scott.
Real heads will remember. It was Scott Lewis on politics, Slop. And people used to call me Slop all the time. They're like, hey, Slop, what's up, dude? And finally, like, I got to the point where I didn't like the name enough for being referred to it. I just, like, tried to really phase it out. But I'm glad that succeeded.
Okay,
Do
all
people
right.
still call you that ever?
Just the old
They
San
will
Diego
now.
heads, like the old like Andrew Donahue's and stuff. Like they'll still refer to me as that. But
Slop Lewis.
yeah,
Slop Lewis.
Slop. Hey, Slop. Yeah.
We're on YouTube now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love, like, my favorite thing is being home alone and just putting on a podcast on YouTube.
Really?
Like, it kind of like, I can
That's
see
your
the
favorite
humans.
thing?
Oh, yeah. I can see the humans moving, you know, whether I'm like cleaning my house or cooking or whatever. And so I don't feel like I'm by myself. And they're talking.
We are on YouTube. Are we the slop merchants now?
There's a version of what we do that I think we're more on the like informative, obviously. We're not.
We're the class act.
Yeah, we're the class act. So you can go to youtube.com/Voice of San Diego. That's youtube.com/Voice San Diego. See our shows, Bella's videos, all kinds of stuff there. Again, youtube.com/Voice of San Diego. Also out is our
Parents Guide to San Diego Schools.
The Parents Guide to San Diego Schools. Is that a good publication?
I think it's pretty good in terms of, you know, local guides to San Diego schools that give you better insight into how schools are doing, what they offer. I would say that of the single guide published in San Diego County, we are probably the best.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Probably the best one. Best of the Parents Guides of San Diego schools.
I mean, everybody is so scared to even try to make one because ours is so good.
You know, when you dominate the space, dude,
you can now download
can't come
it
for the king
at vosd.org/schools. That's vosd.org/schools. And you're not going to believe this, but we're in the middle of a fundraising campaign. Oddly, just a very rare occurrence. vosd.org/podpeople. That's vosd.org/podpeople. Please donate. This one's for our anniversary. Now, last year we did a big 20th year celebration. Well, now it's the 21st, so get on board. We have a few donations to shout out. Susan T said, I love Voice San Diego podcast and coverage of issues important to San Diego. I love how y'all get into the weeds. That's right, Susan. Thank you very much.
We have Steve H., who says he had donated because we are also good looking. Okay, Steve.
No, not also good looking. Also good looking.
Yes, there you go.
Steve's watching us on the YouTube.
Yeah, that's right.
Tom says, Voice of San Diego provides objective, unfiltered analysis of a variety of issues in and around San Diego County. We do.
Gary A. says, support local journalism owned and operated by local people instead of corporate, all caps, big journalism.
So I'm going to interpret that as a mogging of Arizona State University.
Okay.
Corporate media mog.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not local. They're Arizona. Well, it's been no secret, of course, that one of the major priorities of the region has been to try to slow down the deaths from overdoses, especially from fentanyl and heroin. And the sort of last-ditch sort of option you have is the drug Narcan, Naxalone, right? I don't know. Naloxone. And it can reverse those overdoses. Now, obviously, something like that happens, it's still a long way to recovery. But if you see somebody overdosing, that can reverse it, and it's a very powerful tool to do that. So the County of San Diego gave 2 grants to a nonprofit called Harm Reduction Coalition of San Diego to distribute Narcan, and it can reverse those overdoses. But District Attorney Summer Stephan has now charged Amy Knox, the former chief operating officer of that nonprofit, with 6 felonies for allegedly stealing $134,000 of that money and misallocating some of the rest. She used it for travel, plastic surgery, purebred dogs, high-end clothes, cosmetics, and even to pay her home electric bills, which was the one I got the most.
Right, the SDG&E bills.
It's
like
like-
SDG&E bills are so high. You got to embezzle.
Here was District Attorney Summer Stephan summarizing it.
It's sickening that this fraudster decided to line her own pockets, pay for luxury trips, cosmetic plastic surgeries with these precious, potentially life-saving dollars. It is also deeply concerning that the checks and balances that are supposed to safeguard the county's large budget and trust funds failed in this case.
Let's get into that for a second. So Lisa Halverstadt, our reporter, did some great reporting, kind of talking about how they missed some things. It turns out that both the county and the nonprofit, at least initially, missed that Knox, the woman charged with these crimes, had previously been convicted for embezzlement and sentenced to a 4-year state prison term. In July, Lisa asked the county about this, again, before any of these charges, and just, seeing this on the record. And she said, and you asked them, like, how did you vet? You should look into this. And they were like, it's not our problem.
Yeah, the nonprofits are responsible for vetting their own employees, basically. And Lisa did tell me, as her editor, she told me, like, everything she went through to try to get this woman's, like, previous history. And I mean, Lisa being Lisa, like, she's going to catch whatever. And so, like, she had to go to the first floor of the court, but then she had to go to another floor and another floor. And, like, she like kept digging. But, who knows? I don't know who you hired to do a background check and how, they're not Lisa. So I don't know how likely it is that they realistic miss something.
Felony embezzlement should be, it's one thing. It's one thing like an old DUI or something. It's like, I'm not saying that's a minor thing, but it's one thing if it's unrelated, you get public, it's just, I don't know, you pee in the alley one time, you get a ticket. Like that's one thing. But if you're like a felony embezzlement charge that you're convicted on, and then you're in charge of a nonprofit's finances to handle something like this,
it's a red flag.
A little bit of a red flag.
A little bit of a red flag.
Now, Summer Steffen, the district attorney, she was not having it with the county.
She had some words for the county, and they weren't necessarily super strong words, but you could read between the lines, I would say. She was upset that the county apparently had gotten some sort of tip or some red flags were raised about this organization and the people managing it, and they did not tell her office about it. This is what she said.
They discovered this major embezzlement conviction of over $500,000 on her previous employer. And yet, they continued, and not only did they continue, but in less than a year later, in August of 2024, they awarded harm reduction with the signature of the CEO, Amy Knox, on the contract, a second contract.
Yeah, that's not good.
No, you discover that this person who you're going to award public money to has previously embezzled money and decide to move forward with that contract and not alert your district attorney.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of things that are upsetting about this whole situation, but especially the fact that there are a lot of people out there who try to discredit harm reduction just in general as a philosophy for helping people who are living on the streets. And even taking it back to Richard Bailey, back in August of last year, he made a video about this organization talking about how they were paying the executive director over $315,000 a year. And everybody in the comments is talking about how, like, this work shouldn't be done at all. And kind of going back to what you said in the beginning, like, Narcan and all this, like, saves lives. And the fact that somebody who is in a position to potentially help so many people abuse that, and then at the same time is giving more fodder to people who are trying to discredit this as a practice in general, is just really upsetting.
It's a big loss, I think, for not only folks at the county, but folks who are using these services. I mean, it's really, people will probably die because of decisions like this.
Well, I think it also brings up the question, like, why does the county, with its thousands and thousands and thousands of public health workers and employees, need to outsource that? Why, with all that they can do, with all the work that they do with their public nurses that they have, all of the people that they have, and if this is a priority for them, why do they need to give this to an outsourced entity? Why? And with all the trouble that it comes to manage and oversight them, like when they're hiring employees, ostensibly they're doing background checks and things. So why is that the way to handle that sort of effort, especially when they're trying to make the case that they are uniquely, prepared to address a lot of other public health and sort of social crises in San Diego right now. I think it brings up a lot of questions. Maybe they'll be able to restore some trust by addressing that sort of thing in a more broad fashion. But it obviously didn't work this time.
I think we are just seeing the tip of the iceberg, honestly. I think that if this is happening with one organization, very likely that it's happened with others. And if they are going to decide to outsource public, these benefits and public money to other organizations, they should have policies in place to at least check the people who are going to be touching this money themselves, not just outsource that to the nonprofits.
Yep. All right, you aren't going to hear Andrea because she stepped out, not because she's being shy or anything. She just stepped out, had to do a Zoom.
She's more important than us. She has bigger things to do.
Some bigger things. You might, about the county spending and other things, have a new voice to hear from. So the San Diego County Taxpayers Association, remember last year, their CEO, longtime president, abruptly resigned after having sent a press release about his own re-signing of an extension of his contract, like he was some baseball player or something. He abruptly, soon after that, just stepped down. It was revealed they had big financial problems. And the Taxpayers Association, it's worth mentioning, had always been this sort of, quote factory on what was happening in the city and county, right? There was bonds or tax increase or just some budget crisis or something, there was always a voice there. And then when Haney Hong took it over, he just basically receded, pulled away from all of that. And he would get in on some school bonds and stuff like that, but it was just it just disappeared as an organization.
Well, and importantly, get in on school bonds in a way that some schools really resented.
Yeah. Yeah, remind us.
Yeah, essentially he was requiring some schools to pay for bond trainings, and there were school districts that felt that, the Taxpayer Association's endorsement of their bonds was dependent on whether or not they were willing to pay to take part in these sort of county Taxpayer Association trainings.
Right. So they've been in the wilderness for a year since he just disappeared. And now they announced this week that Mark Kersey, the former city councilman at the city of San Diego, is their new CEO and president. So he was one of the few Republicans on the city council. He left the Republican Party toward the end of his term.
So how long was he in office?
He did 8 years. He was the one after Carl DeMaio, and then he left right when COVID hit. I remember we had one of his last things. We had COVID hit, and the week of COVID, he was in here at the podcast studio doing this election roundup, and we're all like, wow, do we shake hands or not? It's weird, huh? This is crazy.
Now let's get in this really tiny room all together.
Yeah, and then a week later, nobody saw each other for another 5 years. But he went off. He started Cask and Coast. You might hear this on the radio sometimes. It's a whiskey blender, and they sponsor the Padres games. So he's this entrepreneur type. He seems to have done well, and now he's going to take over the Taxpayers Association and try to be that voice again. So this, again, same sort of thing like Bailey. This, I was a Republican, but I'm nonpartisan, and I'm going to be able to be a trusted source on some of these things. And now it's really interesting. So Chris Cate, former Republican on the city council, I think still a Republican, is running the Chamber of Commerce. Former Mayor Kevin Faulconer is now running the Lincoln Club, the conservative business political action group. Amy Fawcett, Faulconer's chief of staff, is now running the Building Industry Association, so the sort of right-of-center, developers. And then now you have Mark Kersey running the Taxpayers Association. So all these people who had politics, Amy was an elected official, but right there, and they were all elected officials in the Republican Party, are now running these, institutions on the sort of side of politics. I think that's a really interesting development. I'm curious whether they'll have as much influence on policy from that perspective as they were like literally in political office.
I mean, as Republicans have receded from political life in San Diego, it seems like the last vestiges of the power they once have rest in these institutions. But I mean, how much power is that? I mean, how much are these just kind of like make work jobs for people who were once powerful in San Diego politics?
I mean, I think that it's just to me, it's an indication of just how bad the brand of Republicans got, and like how much there might still be some energy, at least among those people who fund those things, to still have a voice on that side, right? Like try to get it away from the Republican brand, but still push for business stuff, fight labor on different things, challenge spending at the city.
I mean, these were all kind of conservative Republican-leaning institutions for beforehand.
Right. I mean, I think the builders and the taxpayers would claim that they're a little like not that, but
Sure.
I think that's fair. Sure.
Yeah.
So the difference is more so that like you had these like former elected officials in these roles now versus these like lifelong like nonprofit people.
Well, I think sort of. I mean, there was like people running the Taxpayers Association or the Lincoln Club were very passionate politics. They weren't like independent or just like nonprofit nerds. Like they were definitely like, but it was just a different route, right? And I think it's interesting that folks like this have chosen that like they're not going to have success in politics, literal politics like that, especially with this sort of Republican brand, but that this is the way to continue doing that. And these are like these institutions aren't new. It's not like they created them just to give these jobs away. But I think so I don't know what it means. I think it goes back to what we talked about, which is like there's now Democrats, and so it's just a matter of like what Democrats and independents argue about and sort of changing the Overton window of what they discuss versus like actually having a red versus blue sort of dichotomy all the time, right? So I'll be interested to see. The one thing I keep asking myself, so he's a successful businessman, he's having a great life, he's got his whiskey company, go to the Padres games all he wants. Why does he want to build the Taxpayers Association again? That would be like, it doesn't sound like a fun job. It'd be, I know something about building an independent nonprofit, like it's hard. There's like fundraising and, hiring and, working with your board and stuff like that. It's an odd thing to want to do. If all you want to do is say things, you could just like say things.
Do we think that this institution stands to become more powerful now that we have like a dying Republican Party that's not going to have its like traditional voter guide anymore? Now like the Taxpayers Association endorsements are going to be even more powerful.
Well, I don't think they'll endorse candidates, but they'll try to change the discussion on like these taxes or fees that come up.
Wait, so they only ever endorse like bond measures?
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. And so there'll be like different like reforms or policies that they might get behind. I don't remember them ever like taking a stand on like actual candidates.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. I think that's what they're trying to rebuild that everybody's watching the Republican Party just like disintegrate, and these other entities are trying to pick up the pieces and do different things with it. So.
It does kind of harken back to the conversation that we had near the top about slopulism and influencers. Ultimately,
Right.
All institutional power has been drained from the actual body of the Republican Party, and has been, whatever power they have now is exactly people like Amy, people who could potentially direct their energy and influence into organizations like the Taxpayers Association or the Chamber of Commerce. It is all like very sort of proxy power at this point.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament that the energy or the vibes that the Republican Party might have stood for are still out there, and that they're just trying to like articulate and capture and put into a different form, whether it's Carl DeMille and his group or the Taxpayers or the Lincoln Club or whatever, but that the actual party is just so down that it's almost like toxic.
And DeMille famously kind of spent his time in the wilderness doing his slopulism.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's all there is a way to reframe politics, and we'll see if they're successful. Thanks for listening to the Voice of San Diego podcast, the most popular public affairs podcast recorded in San Diego. I'm Scott Lewis. Scott Lewis on politics, slop, CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice San Diego. This is the most popular public affairs podcast recorded in San Diego, who, basically coined Slopulism. Bella Rossa, our social media producer. Jacob McQueen is our education reporter. And Andrea Sanchez Villafana is our managing editor. Matt Scraby is the producer of this show. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.